What would you do if your sister looked down on you in front of your entire family? I'm Alex, and this is how I faced it. What would you do if your sister looked down on you in front of your entire family? I'm Alex, 25 years old, and during last Thanksgiving dinner at our suburban home, my sister Emily humiliated me about my struggling financial situation. But then I discovered her secret debt, and I decided to act. This is my story of revenge. You know that feeling when someone you love just crushes you? When they take everything vulnerable about you and weaponize it for their own entertainment? That's exactly what happened to me 3 months ago, and honestly, I'm still processing it all. Emily is my older sister. She's 30, works some fancy office job, and has always made sure I know she's the successful one in the family. Me, I'm just Alex, the girl who serves coffee at the local cafe and barely makes rent each month. But family is family, right? Or at least that's what I thought until that Thanksgiving dinner from hell. We used to be close when we were kids. We shared secrets, stayed up late giggling, and promised we'd always have each other's backs. But somewhere along the way, as we grew up, Emily changed. She became cruel, calculating. She started seeing my struggles as weaknesses instead of challenges. Living in suburban California with our parents, Robert and Susan, I thought family dinners would be safe spaces. You know those Norman Rockwell paintings of perfect American families gathered around the table? Yeah, that's not my family. Not anymore. It was Thursday evening, November 23rd, Thanksgiving. The whole house smelled like turkey and pumpkin pie. Mom had spent days preparing, Dad was watching football, and I was genuinely excited to spend time with everyone. I'd even bought a new sweater, this soft cream-colored one that made me feel a little more put together than usual. We were all seated around our oak dining table, the one Dad built when I was 12. The candles were flickering, casting this warm, golden glow across everyone's faces. For a moment, it felt like old times. Then Emily opened her mouth. "So, Alex," she said, cutting into her turkey with surgical precision, "still serving lattes for a living? Don't you think it's time to get a real job like the rest of us adults?" The table went quiet. Even the football game seemed to fade into the background. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment, but I tried to laugh it off. "It's honest work, Em. I'm saving up to—" "Saving up?" She actually laughed, this sharp, brittle sound that made my skin crawl. "With what money? Mom told me you had to borrow from her last month just to pay rent." I wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never come back. Because she was right. I had borrowed money from Mom, but it wasn't like I was buying designer bags or going on vacations. I was barely surviving, working 2 jobs, trying to build something for myself in a world that seemed determined to keep me down. "Emily, that's enough," Dad said quietly, but the damage was done. "I'm just saying," Emily continued, dabbing at her lips with her napkin like she was performing surgery. "At 25, most people have figured out how to be financially independent. I had my own apartment and a career by 22. Her words hit me like physical blows. Each sentence was carefully chosen to maximize damage, delivered with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. This wasn't sibling teasing. This was calculated humiliation in front of our parents on Thanksgiving. I excused myself to the bathroom where I cried angry tears and tried to pull myself together. When I came back, the conversation had moved on, but the sting remained. Emily looked satisfied, like she'd accomplished exactly what she set out to do. After dinner, while Mom and Emily were in the kitchen doing dishes, I was helping Dad stack chairs when Emily's phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a notification from Wells Fargo. Payment overdue, $3,247.89. I froze. Emily, perfect, successful. always has her shit together Emily was behind on payments? And not just a little behind. Nearly $3,500 behind. My heart started racing. This was it. This was karma serving me the perfect opportunity on a silver platter. We used to be close. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Emily's cruel words, feeling the shame wash over me again and again. But then, I remembered that notification. That beautiful, perfect piece of karma. I decided I was going to expose Emily at Christmas dinner. 2 months away. Enough time to gather evidence, to plan this perfectly. If she wanted to humiliate me in front of the family, then she'd get a taste of her own medicine. I became a woman obsessed. Every time I visited my parents' house, I'd sneak glances at Emily's things when she left her bag around. I took pictures of bank statements she'd printed and left on Dad's printer. I screenshotted text messages from debt collectors when she left her phone unlocked. God, I felt like a spy. My hands would shake every time I heard footsteps, terrified of being caught. But the evidence kept piling up. Emily owed money to 3 different credit cards, had missed car payments, and was apparently borrowing against her 401k to stay afloat. The irony was delicious. Miss I'm so financially responsible was drowning in debt while lecturing me about my small loan from Mom. But when I started dropping hints about my Christmas surprise, Dad and Mom both shut me down hard. Alex, what are you planning? Mom asked one afternoon while we were decorating the tree. She had that worried look, the one she'd get when I was a kid and had broken something but hadn't confessed yet. Nothing bad, I said, hanging a silver ornament. Just evening the playing field. Dad looked up from untangling lights. Whatever you're thinking, don't. Don't tear this family apart over hurt feelings. Hurt feelings? I nearly dropped the ornament. Dad, she humiliated me, made me feel like garbage in my own family home. But stooping to her level makes you better? Mom's voice was gentle but firm. Be the bigger person, honey. The bigger person. God, how I hated that phrase. Why is it always the victim who has to be the bigger person? Why couldn't Emily be the bigger person and not attack me in the first place? But their disappointment was crushing me. For a few days, I actually considered dropping the whole thing. Maybe they were right. Maybe this would just make everything worse. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, staring at the folder of evidence I'd compiled, when my phone rang. It was Emily. "Hey, little sister," she said, and I could hear the smirk in her voice. "Mom said you're bringing someone to Christmas dinner. Please tell me you didn't hire an escort to make yourself look less pathetic." And just like that, my resolve hardened again. The bigger person? Fuck that. Emily clearly hadn't learned anything from Thanksgiving. If anything, she was getting worse. 3 days before Christmas, everything changed. I was at my parents' house, helping Mom with gift wrapping, when Emily and Dad got into this massive argument in the living room. It started over something small, Emily asking Dad for a small loan, but it escalated fast. "I can't keep doing this, Emily." Dad's voice was louder than I'd heard in years. "I've already given you everything I can." "It's not my fault," Emily shot back. "If you hadn't lost everything 10 years ago, I wouldn't be in this position." I froze, scissors halfway through a piece of wrapping paper. Mom went completely still beside me. 10 years ago, when I was 15. I remembered that year. Dad had been stressed. There were whispered conversations behind closed doors. We'd moved to a smaller house. But they'd told us it was because they wanted to downsize. "That's not fair," Dad said, his voice breaking. I did everything I could to protect you girls from knowing. I rebuilt from nothing. By borrowing against my future? Emily was crying now. I've been paying off your bankruptcy mess this whole time. Every penny of my salary goes to debts you created. The truth hit me like a freight train. Dad had filed for bankruptcy when I was 15. Emily hadn't been living some perfect, successful life. She'd been drowning in debt, trying to cover our family financial disaster. The debt I discovered wasn't her being irresponsible. It was her being noble, sacrificial. I felt sick. All this time, I'd been planning to humiliate her for something that was actually her trying to protect our family. Emily, who I'd seen as cruel and selfish, had been carrying this enormous burden alone. But then Emily turned toward the kitchen where Mom and I were frozen in place. "And Alex," she said, her voice venomous, "Alex gets to live in blissful ignorance while I sacrifice everything. Poor little Alex, struggling to pay rent, when I haven't been able to save a penny in 10 years because of this family." Even in her moment of vulnerability, she was still throwing daggers at me. The sympathy I'd started feeling evaporated. Whatever noble intentions she'd had, she was still the same person who humiliated me at Thanksgiving. Christmas dinner arrived, and I had completely changed my approach. Instead of humiliating Emily, I was going to save her. Save us all, actually. The whole family was there. Mom, Dad, Emily, plus our Aunt Linda and Uncle Mike. The dining room looked like a magazine spread, with Mom's good china, red and gold decorations, and the smell of ham and apple pie filling the air. We'd made it through most of dinner with pleasant small talk when I cleared my throat. "I have something I want to say," I announced, standing up. "Actually, I have something I want to give everyone." I pulled out a folder. Not the revenge folder I'd originally planned, but something entirely different. Inside were printouts of financial assistance programs, debt consolidation options, and family counseling resources. "I know about the bankruptcy," I said simply. "I know about Emily's debts. I know about all of it." The silence was deafening. Emily went pale, Mom started crying, and Dad looked like he wanted to disappear. But here's what I also know. We're a family, and families don't let each other drown alone. I pulled out my laptop and showed them something I'd been working on for the past 3 days instead of planning revenge. A detailed budget plan that showed how we could all contribute small amounts to help Emily get back on her feet, and how the family could finally address Dad's lingering financial issues honestly. "Emily," I said, looking directly at my sister, who was now crying into her napkin, "I was planning to humiliate you tonight. I was going to expose your debts in front of everyone as payback for Thanksgiving." She looked up at me with such fear in her eyes. "But that would have made me just as cruel as you were to me. So instead, I want to help you. I want us to help each other." Emily broke down completely. "Alex, I'm so sorry. I've been so awful to you, and you didn't deserve any of it. I was just so angry and scared and tired of carrying this alone. I took it out on you because you're the safest target, and that makes me a terrible sister." Dad was crying now too. "I'm sorry, girls. I thought I was protecting you by keeping the bankruptcy secret. I never wanted either of you to feel responsible for my failures. We're all responsible for each other. That's what family means." The rest of the evening wasn't perfect. There were more tears, difficult conversations, and a lot of hurt feelings that needed to be addressed. But it was honest. For the first time in years, we were all being completely honest with each other. Emily and I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night, sitting by the fireplace, talking about everything we'd been holding back. She told me about the sleepless nights, the panic attacks, the crushing weight of trying to fix everyone's problems alone. I told her about feeling worthless, about the shame of struggling financially, and how her words at Thanksgiving had nearly broken me. She admitted, "I don't know how not to be angry. I've been angry for so long, I don't remember who I was before. Then we'll figure it out together." Looking back now, 3 months later, I realized that revenge was never really what I wanted. What I wanted was to feel valued, to feel heard, to feel like I mattered to my family. Humiliating Emily wouldn't have given me any of those things. It would have just made me someone who hurt people when I was hurting. The real victory wasn't exposing Emily's secrets. It was creating a space where we could all be vulnerable together, where we could admit we were struggling and ask for help without shame. Emily and I still fight sometimes. Old habits die hard. But now, when we disagree, we talk about it, instead of storing up ammunition for future attacks. She's in therapy now, dealing with anxiety and anger management. I'm seeing someone too, working on my own issues with self-worth and family dynamics. Dad started financial counseling, and slowly, carefully, we're all working together to rebuild what was broken. It's not easy. There are setbacks and difficult conversations and moments when the old patterns try to reassert themselves. But we're trying, and that's something. Mom keeps saying she's proud of me for choosing healing over revenge, but honestly, I'm just proud that I finally understood the difference. Revenge might have felt good in the moment, but healing, real healing, that's the victory that actually lasts. Have you ever faced a family conflict that felt impossible to resolve? Here's what I learned from almost destroying my family relationships. Confronting the truth, even when it's painful, is the only way to actually solve conflicts. If you're dealing with family drama, my advice is this: document what's really happening, but before you use that information as a weapon, ask yourself what you actually want the outcome to be. Do you want to hurt someone back, or do you want to fix what's broken? Talk honestly, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. The conversations that make your heart race are usually the ones that need to happen most. And choose healing over revenge every single time. Revenge is a sugar rush. It feels amazing for about 5 minutes, then leaves you more empty than before. But healing builds something real and lasting. My relationship with Emily isn't perfect now, but it's honest. And honestly, that's worth so much more than any revenge I could have gotten. Remember, the goal isn't to win. The goal is to build relationships that are strong enough to handle the truth.